Thank you very much, Frank, for that very comprehensive report on our financial performance. There are quite a few questions already coming in. The first one is from Aleem Khan, a journalist. I suspect, Aleem, welcome. I suspect Aleem is from Trinidad. Is Trinidad and Tobago now a net sender of remittances to what territories? Trinidad and Tobago traditionally has primarily been an outbound market. However, recently, because of our strong promotions in terms of the USA market, the inbound and the outbound is just about the same. So Aleem, net sender, it's about equal now in terms of inbound and outbound. To what territories? Is it traditional territories for Trinidad and Tobago, the USA market, the UK, and also Canada. Don, you mentioned that the dividend payout is $1 billion, but that the yield is 2.4%. Can your CFO address the strategy in terms of increasing the yield?
Thanks, Don and listeners. We are always seeking ways to enhance shareholder value, and we do this through a combination of returning cash to our shareholders in the form of dividends, as well as reinvesting in the business for growth. So as I mentioned, we have actually grown the dividend this year so far by 23%. Because we have been able to generate those additional profits. But in fact, the even greater growth has come in the appreciation of the stock price, which has gone up over 50%. And we think that that largely has to do with the types of investments that we have been making in the business. We recognize that when we reinvest in the business, it can have a short-term impact on profits. And over the last few years, that's what we have been doing, making material investments. And we think that is what is paying off and showing in the profitability that we are seeing this year and we expect to see going forward. And therefore, we're happy to share that growth in profits with our shareholders.
Thank you, Frank. Aleem, again, our journalist, Khan. How has the food business been performing in Trinidad and Tobago? Aleem, we have been performing pretty well. We are seeing steady growth in the Trinidad and Tobago market. So we're quite happy with our performance in Trinidad and Tobago. Are you looking, and this Aleem, are you looking to enter any new segments, maybe commercial banking in Trinidad? Aleem, the answer to that question is yes. We are actually hoping to enter commercial banking in Trinidad. We have been having initial discussions with the central bank in Trinidad, and the discussions will continue. But as a Jamaican company trying to expand in the Caribbean, we believe that we have a core competence in commercial banking. And we are hoping that the regulators in Trinidad and Tobago would look at us favorably in the future to start a commercial bank in Trinidad and Tobago. Recession difficulties facing many Caribbean countries. How are you able to grow profits in this environment? Exclamation sign. That's a great question. So if you look at the GraceKennedy Group in terms of our profitability, we have our strategy, and let me back up a little bit in terms of our vision. The vision for the GraceKennedy Group is to achieve 50% of our profits outside of Jamaica, 50% of our revenue outside of Jamaica, and to leverage our relationships with our international partners. And that's primarily Western Union, who, as I said earlier, we operate in 11 countries as a strategic partner, and hopefully 12. The distribution of our profits of that 50%, we are now at 38% outside of Jamaica, and a lot of that is generated from our food business in the UK, in the US market, and in the Canada market. Also, our remittance market in terms of the USA also contributes to that profitability. One of the things that I'd say is there's always opportunities while the Caribbean economies are difficult, as you said earlier. But in fact, the GraceKennedy Group on a whole, especially in our remittance business, is performing exceptionally well in the Caribbean countries. You know, so we see a lot of opportunities, and we're going to be working hard in terms of our strategy to deliver on the profitability.
Don, I just add that we also focus significantly on our operational efficiency in all our various businesses. and to ensure that we take advantage of some of the positives in the Caribbean economies now when you think of the reduction in oil prices and the fact that those have remained relatively low compared to prior years. Those are some of the areas where we make sure that we capture those efficiencies to benefit our profit line.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Other question, was the AgroGrace name sold as part of H&L? No, the brand is still owned by the GK Group under license, and it's presently being used by Hardware and Lumber, and that arrangement will be reviewed on an ongoing basis. So GraceKennedy, we still own, and it was not sold as part of the H&L transaction. Other question is FGB. What is FGB strategy? You're going to be seeing increased competition going forward. How are you going to position First Global Bank in such a challenging market? So as I said earlier, we have looked very carefully at First Global Bank, and we have been executing well on our strategy. Basically, we want to be the bank of choice and convenience for the Jamaican consumer, and you can see that through our flexible banking hours that we have. So if I was to probably summarize some of the key strategic initiatives of First Global Bank going forward, the first one I'd mention is the agency banking. We believe that we have a real competitive advantage in terms of our Western Union network and the new regulations for agency banking. The second competitive advantage that we think is our digital banking. We introduced the video teller machine, and it has been doing exceptionally well. Over the last few years, we have invested over $7 million in new technology, and we are beginning to see the benefits of that investment. Also, investing in our people. We believe that if we are going to be successful in banking, we have to have the best people, and I can say to you that First Global Bank will have a great team in place, and we are going to be very focused in terms of executing on our strategy. Okay, has any consideration been given to greater use of long-term debt in light of where interest rates are now? Frank?
Thanks, Don. Yes, the group is always looking at ways to manage our cost of funding, and given the relatively low interest rates in Jamaica at this time, the use of long-term debt is definitely something that we'll be considering. Of course, this will be based on our need to raise debt at the appropriate time. And as I mentioned earlier, our debt-to-equity ratio remains low, giving us adequate capacity to increase debt as we need to.
Don, you mentioned international listing of the GK Group. Can you give us an update on that? I'll ask Frank to update us on the international listing. Frank has been the person that I've asked to lead on that initiative.
Thanks, Don. As we had indicated, it's not a short-term initiative, but it continues to be one that we continue to research, and it would definitely be something that would be considered in the medium term. So we continue to do work on the consideration of an international listing, if appropriate, for the GraceKennedy Group.